Hello, so today I am working on a hat for CeeLo, and if you haven't already, please do go over and check out his channel at CeeLo Ed TV. There's a lot of great interesting things over there. So what I usually do when I am doing a hat is I measure about 1/4 of an inch from this bill of the hat, and then I place my design there. Normally my design would be in the center of the hat, but CeeLo wanted the design off to the side. So what I'm going to do is line it up with that 1/4 inch mark. Line the design itself up with that 1/4 inch mark. And then I'm going to take some pins and pin that design in place where I want it to go. And this was just printed out on a regular inkjet printer. So I'm just going to pin it there so that it stays in place. And now on the bottom of the hat, I have to pin the sweatband out of the way. So I'm going to go through and just pin this sweatband using some short pins like that. And it's not a science. The pins don't have to go all the way through. They just have to be in place enough to make sure that the sweatband doesn't get in the way of the design later. It would have helped if I would have taken out the cardboard. I'm about to do that in just a second. I forgot all about doing that. Normally, if I were doing a centered design, I would be taking a thumbtack and sticking it through here. But since this is not a centered design, a thumbtack would pierce the fabric and mess it up, so I'm not going to do it. So the hat is pretty much prepped, except I'm going to take this medium cutaway interfacing and I'm going to spray it onto the back of here. And this is a much bigger piece than what I need, so I might trim it down some. So this is the hoop that I'm going to be using. And I have used a permanent marker and marked the points here just so that I can get perfect alignment when I do decide to put the hat down. And I'm going to use some cutaway interfacing on the back of this hat hoop. And it's not going to be the sticky kind because I don't like having to buy multiple interfacings or backings. I just use what I have instead of having to buy something else. Sometimes you can improvise and make do with what you have instead of always buying a different supply for a different project. And I'm cutting more than what I need, and in a second you're going to see exactly why. So what I do is I fold it in on the ends like this, and then I use these guys to clamp the paper down. So I just use different size clips depending on what I think will work best for whatever section that I'm working on. For this section here, I always like to use the plastic clips because they're smaller. Okay, so now that I have this piece of paper down, I am going to mark through here so that I can get a perfect line. On both axes, I want to have a perfect line so that my design is perfectly centered in the hoop, and so I don't have any problems. All right, that's looking pretty good so far. Now I'm going to come back in with my hat. Now this is the hard part. So these crosshairs have to line up perfectly with these crosshairs in order for the hat to stitch out properly. So now I have to make this hat flat. And they say that a stiff hat will not work in this hoop, but the only type of hats that I do in this hoop are stiff hats. So it's always worked for me, but it's just kind of difficult to do it. It's not easy, of course. So in order to do this, you kind of have to bend the hat out of shape a little bit and then line it up with the crosshairs, and take another pin and stick it through the center. And I don't know if you can see that well, but the pin is sticking up through the back of here. And then I am going to place it on the center of here and put it through my backing so I can just get the placement right. Now I'm just going to put this piece back down and screw it in place, and then we'll be ready to go off to the embroidery machine. Before we go off to the embroidery machine, I'm going to place some more pins just around here, just so that it doesn't move anywhere when we get ready to stitch this design out. So I'm going to do that off camera, and then I'll come back and show you the machine stitching the design out. So once I get my machine powered on, what I usually do is go to my settings and then make sure that the machine has been slowed down to the slowest speed that the machine will go, just to make sure that the machine doesn't go too fast for the hat hoop and cause problems. So now I'm just going to set my design and we will get to stitching. Of course, before any sewing begins, I have to trace my design out to make sure that it's going to stitch the design in the correct place. So I'm just going to hit this button here and trace my design. So it looks pretty good, so I'm just going to take the paper off like so. I think I'm just going to tear the paper away in this area here, and then I'm going to put down some water soluble and we'll get to stitching. So this is the most important task. You want to really make sure that you have all of the pins out of the sweatband so that the person does not get stuck with any pins. I always count to make sure that I take out the same amount of pins that I put in there. I'm also going to cut away the tearaway stabilizer or what's left of it. It's just a little wet where I sprayed away the water soluble stabilizer, but that will dry in a few. I'm going to wait till this dries and then I'm going to show you the final results. This is what the final result looks like, and I think that it turned out really well. As you can see, it's not too hard to stitch out a design onto a hat. You just have to know how to pin it in place and get your design centered so that everything prints in the appropriate place. But this same technique can be applied to using a smaller machine like a 4x4. It's just that your hoop is just a different size, and that's it. I really do hope that you got something from this video and are able to take the skills from this video and use them to stitch out your own hats. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe to receive more sewing related content.